It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river in Council Bluffs on 23rd Avenue. And again, located online at joeskarting.com. As always, karting with a K. The good news, as we've always talked about with Joe's Karting, no chance of rain while you're racing at Joe's Karting. We cannot say the same for Pocono.
No, Pocono, there is rain, and there's a slight chance of no rain.
And there's apparently a chance of fog. What do you think what's your bets for next year? What are we going to have? Locust?
I was going to say maybe some deer on the track. I've seen that there before. Maybe the clouds will be so heavy and fog will be so heavy the week before that they won't have anything through their power bank because they've got a whole bunch of solar power bank there.
Yeah, they do. They got that big, like you said, I think it's along the backstretch. Well, I guess there isn't a backstretch there.
I think it's between turns 2 and 3 outside the track, but it's a huge bank they've got set up for that.
Well, what a race. We got all ready to see it on Sunday, but rain once again. I feel bad for Pocono because this is probably going to hurt their ticket sales next year because 2 races in a row, fans have booked their trips, got their hotel rooms to go and leave on Sunday night after the race was over with, and frankly, they've gotten burned, and there's nothing NASCAR can do. It's weather. It happens. It's NASCAR's policy that your ticket is as good for when we make up the race, and that was Monday. Could have been Tuesday. I think there's been a couple of times in NASCAR history that the race has been made up on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's very seldom just because their schedule's so tight, but they're so far into the year. I don't know if they've got any open weeks there where they could, redo another race. They've done that before, too.
Yeah, that would be difficult to do. So
just need lights at Pocono. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and that was another issue that they were dealing with. They inevitably ended up calling the race on Sunday night because late Sunday afternoon because they figured that they couldn't get the full race in before the sunset and it was too tough for the guys to drive, and Pocono doesn't have any lights.
Yeah, and I don't care what anybody would want to say, and I'll argue with everybody to the point. It was also a good win for NASCAR, having a rookie, with a small team and everything, took the chance, got out front, and giving them the win. That was good for the racing scene.
Well, there's always haters and there's always detractors, and you've seen them on the Facebook page. You see them all over Facebook. I've gotten into fights with a couple of them. It's the people that they don't pay attention to NASCAR, but anytime they read the cover of a book of a storyline that's going on in NASCAR, they jump on it, and they don't know their finger from their elbow, but they've decided they've got an opinion about NASCAR, and those people irritate me to no end. But you're absolutely right. It's good for the sport. It shows parity, and it shows, it's if you say that this is a bad thing of sport, then good luck policing strategy out of NASCAR, because that's what got Chris this win. He's a talented driver and an underfunded team.
He's an Xfinity Series champion, so he's not. It's not like he just showed up, from a little half-mile bull ring somewhere. Mm-hmm. He's a champion.
Yeah, and like we just talked about, we talked to him at Kansas, but we've never gotten around to airing the interview. Good, intelligent kid, smart, talented, and he's just at an operation now at Front Row Racing where he's basically they're kind of like a satellite team. What we've talked about with Joe Gibbs Racing and Furniture Row Racing is that Front Row Racing is basically a satellite team for Roush Fenway Racing.
Well, Roush Fenway and Penske. It's a Ford team, and Ford is pretty good just because they're so limited in number of teams anymore. Yeah. They're pretty good at sharing information.
And Roush is at 4 teams, or are they at 3?
Roush is at 3.
Yeah, and so they could create a 4th car, but it's a lot easier just to share the information because Chris is under contract.
Well, they're getting paid to share the information. Yeah,
Well, Chris is under contract with Roush, so that's how that deal works out. Is it is almost like a developmental deal. Like Roush said, well, we don't really have the room or the ability to go to a 4th team. Front Row Racing, you've got it. So why don't you take Chris? We'll give you some information. You give us information back. It's a trade, and then we get there Monday, and the race is delayed just a little bit as NASCAR finishes prepping the track, but then we finally get the race underway, and boy, it was a combination, and it was a weird race. It was a combination of fuel mileage strategy, of working the race backwards, like we've talked about and what we'll see today at Watkins Glen, working the race backwards and trying to get your pit strategy just right to where you're the one that's out there on the lead when everyone else is cycling through.
Correct.
And then it was also a strategy of beating the rain. And apparently for the last 60 laps, there was rain showers on the horizon and pretty heavy rain showers. Just the freakest of weirdest things watching the video of that fog rolling into the speedway. And they talked about like second and third place could not see the cars in front of them. It was that thick. And I think Chris even said he really couldn't see the pace car even with the wheel and lights going.
Yeah, so, it was thick. It was very thick.
So they had to throw the red flag. And Chris ended up, Tom Osborne, Bob Osborne ended up throwing the strategy of, I'm going to leave him out there for these last green flag laps, hoping, I mean, that's all they had. They had hope that the caution would come out, and it worked out. And the caution came out. Eventually, it turned to a red flag, and we waited at a red. Now, one of the other issues that people had was that if this would have been one of the bigger names in the sport, they'd have called the race a long time ago. And black flags, black helicopters, you could say whatever you want to speculation-wise, but I think NASCAR was doing exactly what they were required to do, which was they were giving every opportunity to get all laps in for that race and not ended on lap 122, which was 20 or so laps short of the 138, which was 22 laps short of the 160 that they were going for. And let's face the conditions. Had that fog, just a breeze come in and that fog pushed out, we could have gone racing pretty quickly. There was no rain on the track. The track didn't need drying. It was a pretty clean surface.
My guess is the track probably would have need blown off wherever that fog was at, because fog is wet.
Yeah.
We can't deny that. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't have been a saturation.
Right. It wouldn't have taken 2.5 hours.
No, it would have taken a couple passes with those Titans, and we'd have been racing.
And that would have been the time it had taken all the drivers to get to the cars, get the cars unpacked, get the drivers back in it, get them set to go, fired engines. You're making laps right away. Yep. It had taken no time at all to get those races. But eventually NASCAR said, we're not going to be able to get this race in. We got to call it. Chris Buescher was listed the winner, and I believe he is the first rookie to win a race this year. Rookie contender.
Oh, yeah.
Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, there's no other rookies who won this year. It's been, I can't think of the last rookie that won.
It's been a while. It's been a long time.
It very well could have been, who was it that won Daytona several years ago?
Trevor Bayne?
Yeah, it might have been Trevor Bayne. Might have been the last rookie.
See, I don't think he was counted as a rookie because he wasn't running a full schedule at that time. And I don't think he was running enough to be counted as a rookie. Because you've got to run at least 7 races, right?
As long as you have not run 7 races. If you run 8 races in 1 year, you blew your rookie status.
Okay. But if you run 1, you can be counted as a rookie.
Yeah, you can run 7 races 10 years in a row and then decide to be a rookie and go for Rookie of the Year.
Well, and it's kind of I'm trying to think, because NASCAR wouldn't let a pure rookie run at Daytona, right? They've got the restriction about letting them. They've got to be racing at smaller tracks, and then they come up to bigger tracks.
Well, no, you could be in Xfinity Series for 10 years running Daytona. You're going to get to run Daytona as a rookie in Cup Series.
Well, it may very well have been
Trevor Bayne.
Thank you.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. And I could be wrong, but it's just been a while since a rookie's won.
It has. And it's not something that happens very often.
No.
And there is a little bit that says, well, he won under pit strategy. I'll give you that. When you win under strategy, it's not as good as winning when you're battling coming out of turn 4, and like that. But a win's a win.
And that series is so tough to win in. Yeah. I mean, if you would even pull up a number of all the people that have raced in that series and then all the people that have won, I'll bet it's less than 5%.
Probably. And go back and look at, didn't Joey Logano get his very first win at Pocono on a rain-shortened race?
It might have been. It was a rain-shortened race. I know that, and it might have been Pocono.
I think it was, and I know he got his first win on a rain-shortened race. I'm pretty sure it was at Pocono. But it doesn't matter how you get your win. You were the car that was leading at the end of the race,
yep.
and you've got that win. Brad Keselowski comes home second. Regan Smith third. Kevin Harvick fourth. Tony Stewart fifth. Larson, Hamlin, Edwards, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch round out the top 10. Rough days for Martin Truex Jr. That was a tough day for Martin.
Yeah, he found out another way to lose.
I tell you that. The old saying of somebody that just couldn't wait to get this race over with was Martin Truex Jr. after about lap 6, 7. I mean, he blew that tire early.
Yeah, it was past that, though. It wasn't in the top first 5 or 6. I'm going to say about lap 20 or so is when that happened. And, I mean, Paul Menard was snake bit with a transmission issue about the same time.
Yep. Joey Logano was involved in an accident.
Jimmy Johnson got into something there with the same time that the Truex deal happened, and he was beat up. So, yeah, it took its toll on something, I mean, that... Again, just a strange deal for Martin Truex and Paul Menard. Paul Menard had a very fast car.
Yeah.
And definitely would have been, I'm going to say, almost a guaranteed top 5 finish for him, but...
Well, and it's tough to say, too, because there was guys that were in the middle of 2 different types of strategy. Were you racing the rain or were you racing the fuel mileage? And so that's why you see guys like Matt Kenseth and Jamie McCarl. Well, Jamie was involved in an accident also. Austin Dillon, who was up front quite a bit. Kyle Larson, who was up front quite a bit. You see those guys cycle a little bit back because the caution came out when we were going through green flag cycles, and Chris was left out there with just enough gas in the tank to kind of putt around the Pocono for a couple laps till they threw out the red flag. But you saw a lot of drivers that were up front early and up front often that were caught in the back because they were through the middle of their cycle.
Yeah, but as it would have happened if they would have gone back to racing, Buescher just would have pitted and finished, he was on the lead lap, so he'd have still had a solid finish, but it wouldn't have been a win.
I think they said Buescher and Keselowski were both low on fuel. Smith also, that it probably would have cycled around to be Kevin Harvick would have had the lead had we gone back to green flag racing. Now, the big question that everybody asks, and I asked immediately, is Chris Buescher in the chase?
Almost.
And the answer right now is almost. He is 6 points out of the good. Now, the couple of rules you got to have in order to qualify for the chase: you must have attempted to qualify or race in all Sprint Cup Series points-paying races. He has done that as a part of a full season with Front Row. You must have be in the top 30, and you don't necessarily must have a win, but you've got to be in the top 15 in points.
With a win, you have to be in the top 30. But I do believe he's part of the charter system with Front Row. So,
yes, he is.
So, yeah, he's automatically attempting to qualify for every race. I mean, he's in every race.
Right.
So that's not an issue. And come hell or high water, he's going to be in the top 30. I'd just like to know how far he is from 29th right now.
He is 6 points out of 30th, so he'll need 7 points in order to get into the top 30, and that 30th position is where he can get in. Out of 29th, he is 35 points behind.
Yeah, well, 6 points. As long as nothing really silly happens, I would see the 30th place car probably maybe we're doing a start and park here in about 5 races somewhere. But I don't think it's going to happen right away. I think he'll try and race in.
Yeah.
But I think on the Richmond race, which is the last race to get into the chase, you will see probably a start and park or a mechanical issue for the I believe it's the 38 car that is in 30th place.
That would be Landon Castle. Yeah, 38th. Sorry, David Reagan is in the 30th. Landon Castle's in the 29th.
Okay.
I'm going to go a little bit less trick and thing. And I have a strong faith that if NASCAR senses that there's something funky going on to get somebody into the chase, they've said it before. If they suspect any kind of foul play and letting another team into the chase, they will heavily penalize both teams involved. And they did that after Richmond when Clint Boyer, was it Clint Boyer that had that spin? Yeah, when he was a part of Michael Waltrip Racing and all of a sudden just spun.
But that's a lot different when it's a teammate. It's harder to prove when it's another team.
I don't think it's harder to prove at all. If NASCAR believes that there's something going on, they will investigate it. And, hey, we do what Brian France says. They will penalize them.
Well, but again, we're back to where we were talking a top 15 team doing this and somebody with a win, as opposed to teams that are 30th in points. Mm-hmm. It's really tough to prove something happened to a team 30th in points.
I don't think it is. I think you could. I honestly think that the teams up in the top 15 are a lot better at hiding things from NASCAR than the teams in the bottom. What I think is going to happen is Roush Fenway Racing is looking at the cars they have, which right now is Trevor Bayne in 17th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 19th, and Greg Biffle in 22nd. And they're looking at their satellite team saying, we got to win over here. We've just got to get them 25, 30 good points, and we're into we're going to put all of our resources behind that car.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're going to bail on the other 3 cars at Roush Fenway, but they're going to put a lot of focus and a lot of time on putting Chris in the chase.
Yeah, but again, it's not Roush's team. A satellite team is not Roush's team. So
well, but then again, we've had this conversation about Stewart Haas Racing and being the satellite team for Hendrick.
Yeah, and whose team's doing good?
But nobody wanted to give Stewart Haas Racing any credit for being a satellite team, and they said, "Oh, well, they take everything. It's just they take the chassis, they take the setups, they take the information, they sit in the meetings and do all this stuff." So a satellite team is either basically a fourth team for Roush Fenway or it's its own team. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Well, I'm just saying. Right now, look at Stewart Haas. Mm-hmm. You know,
and which we've
three of them are in the chase.
Again, we're fine with
three of them are in the chase.
Yeah, you and I agree on that. I think that's the reason why
and
Stewart
Hendricks
Haas
is struggling.
Leaving. Yeah,
Hendricks has got one car in the chase.
Yeah,
and possibly a second. I mean, Chase Elliott as a rookie might make the chase without a win.
I just think you're going to see a lot of Roush Fenway guys over in that 34 camp saying, "What can we try?" But then again, I don't know. Do you want Roush's help? Because
they might get an extra 5 or 8 or 10 horsepower in their engines.
Yeah.
You know, instead of getting the 4th or 5th or 6th engine down the line coming out of the engine shop, they might get the number 1 motor now.
Mm-hmm. And just the little stuff. There might be a little bit better cooperation between the two of saying, hey, we've got a faster car in our practices, so why don't you guys try this? You know, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And really quickly, while we got time left in this turn, do you think it's a bad thing if Chris Buescher makes it into the chase? Will be the easy. Let's assume he makes it into the chase. It's going to be really tough for him to go on to the second round. But if he makes it onto the second round and into the third round, does that start to make the sport look bad? Like anybody can do it?
Him making it into the chase is great for the sport. If he gets to the final 8, I'd say that it was not a good thing for the sport. Mm-hmm. Now, if you've got a couple of short tracks, you got a Martinsville and stuff in there, you get some of these short tracks, anybody can get a win, mm-hmm. And if he would get a win, somewhere in the chase and be able to move up, and again, nobody expected him to win the other day.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it definitely can happen. If he would get a win and move up, then that would still be a good thing for the sport. When a rookie wins, I don't care what the situation is, it's great for the sport.
Well,
fantastic.
And when a smaller team gets in, I'll go back and say it any day. The year that the Giants won the Super Bowl was a feel-good year for the Giants because they were one of the first teams to qualify for the playoffs with a losing record. And they won their way into the Super Bowl. So what's the difference between the New York Giants having a terrible year and getting into the playoffs because they were in a terrible conference and they had the best record in a terrible conference and they got into the playoffs and made their way into the Super Bowl? What's the difference with that and front row racing, qualifying for the chase, and then running great and making it to the second, third, and even hopefully down to Homestead?
The difference is front row is going to race 39 other teams every week. The Giants played 1.
That is different. It's a lot harder. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I agree.
There are so many more variables in a race and, a 500 or 400-mile race than there are in a football game.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, you're comparing apples to watermelons, not even oranges, man, watermelons.
And that's the tough part about when people criticize NASCAR. It's tough to compare it to other sports because the stick and ball sports you play in one team at a time, and it's a lot different strategies. It's a lot different play than NASCAR is. NASCAR is incredibly unique to auto racing, and like a lot of other auto racing sports, dirt racing in one instance, IndyCar, all types of racing that there is out there, they're all very unique in the fact that you cannot compare them to the stick and ball sports.
You can't even compare them to each other. I mean, look at Scott Bloomquist, who is arguably the best dirt track racer that's ever lived, mm-hmm. and he jumped in a truck and went to Eldora and couldn't get out of his own way.
Yeah,
very talented dirt driver,
yep.
But that was not his forte.
I think he thought himself in that race.
Very well could have been. It very well could have been the issue.
By the way, is something I have never been accused of.
Yeah, I mean, you broke a grain bin, so
yeah.
But
I broke it good.
I don't care where you're at when you're driving a race car. I don't care if you're driving a dirt track car on an I-80 Speedway. If you've got a field of cars that's 20 plus cars every week, and you're that track's champion, you got some talent.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to, there's a lot of these smaller tracks. I'm not knocking them. I'm not knocking the guys that race there. Don't get me wrong. But if you go out to a track that has 6 or 7 cars every week in your class and you're the track champion, there's not it doesn't mean near as much as what
Right.
it does if you break. If you're beating 20 cars every week. Because if you're beating 20 cars every week, and especially in dirt track racing, you're starting from the 10th or 12th position every week.
Yeah.
And you won a championship. That's the thing that's different with the asphalt racing. I don't care if it's just late model racing on asphalt. The winners start towards the front.
Yeah. They'll start where they qualify.
Yeah, and it's a totally different ball game to be able to win a race. Just think how many how many more wins like Joe or Steve Koziski would have had if they started on the pole just about every week.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have been fun to watch.
No. I mean, it would. In all honesty, watching them win from 12th half the time wasn't that much fun, just because they were so much better than everybody else.
It was fun watching them get up there, but then once they took the lead, you kind of...
Well, where it was fun was watching them if they had an issue in a heat race and had to come through a B and then start at the back of the A and still win the darn thing. That was fun to watch.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back. We got a big show lined up for you today. Dusty Zomer, driver of the Buffalo Wild Wings 410, will join us. We talked to him at the I-80 Speedway a couple of weeks ago for the World of Outlaws race. And then also Terry McCarl, driving the number 24 T-Mac, will join us. Both of those guys are going to be at Knoxville this coming week. And they're also going to be at Oski tomorrow for the Front Row Challenge.
Do you know if they've got any tickets still for sale over there at Knoxville?
For the 410 Nationals?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. 40,000 seats. It fills up fast, and it's selling really well this year, but I believe it is not sold out yet.
Okay.
So last time I checked, it was not sold out. So Dusty Zomer coming up next, then Terry McCarl, and then at turn number 4, we will preview Watkins Glen, which... a little bit of a wild card because it's got some fresh asphalt on it.
Well, and did they decide to run the boot, do you know?
They didn't.
Okay, they're
going
not
to run the
boot?
same thing, but they're talking about it. All right, we'll be back in turn number 2 to talk with Dusty Zomer. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Hey, race fans. For over 30 years, Eagle Raceway has been America's home track and the place to be on Saturday nights for great dirt track racing action. This Saturday night, it's Kids Car Ride Night at Eagle Raceway. All kids 12 and under can ride in a real dirt track race car around the famed high banks of Eagle Raceway. Get your adult tickets for $10, kids 6 to 12 get in for $5, and kids 5 and under are always free. Gates open at 5 with the green flag waving at 6:30. Eagle Raceway, just east of Lincoln on Highway 34 in Eagle, Nebraska.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 2, and as promised, we sat down with Dusty Zomer a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it was blazing hot out. That was one of the hotter days I've sat in the pits at I-80 Speedway, and so it was just me hanging out on a Wednesday. I think you were having some trouble with dialysis.
Yeah,
you're getting...
I skipped that one.
And so I sat down with Dusty and talked to him about what it was like to have Buffalo Wild Wings as a sponsor. That was my start-off question, and we know what it's like to have a great sponsor as a wing shop, and I've taken full... Let me tell you, I've taken full advantage of that sponsorship and in my friendship with Chris and everybody at Quaker Steak. There isn't anything on that menu I don't know about, and they've got the best way. I'm talking about Quaker Steak and Lube as our official watering hole, and they've got some of the best wings in the country.
I haven't got through the whole menu yet, but I've experimented. I've been on the seafood page and had the shrimp, and my personal favorite's the half ribs and half wings.
That's a delicious one, too. My favorite's always the wings and the premium pretzels. I love those premium pretzels.
I stay away from the pretzels because of the sodium, but not that the ribs and the wings, that with whatever they're rubbed with, probably don't have enough sodium for me. But
and that's really the difference when it comes to the world of wings is your sauce. I mean, all these restaurants pretty much buy the same type of wing. It's the big, meaty, thick ones, unless you're talking about Hooters, which I always think those are real thin, anorexic wings. Those are...
anorexic chickens.
Oh, they're terrible. They're so... I remember one time I was trying to eat when I was...
Hey, can I just explain something to you, Dan?
Go ahead.
You don't go to Hooters for the wings.
I know that.
Okay.
I noticed. I turned 14 and I noticed. All right, so we sat down with Dusty Zomer to talk to him, and the first thing I talked to him about was how cool it was to have a wing as a wing shop as a sponsor.
Yeah, actually, Todd and Susan LaHaye are the car owners, and they have a chain of Wild Wing stores up and down the I-29 corridor in North Dakota and South Dakota. So he's the car owner, and he has multiple Wild Wild Wing stores, and obviously, it makes everyone's appetite hungry when they see it. So that definitely stands out wherever we go racing.
Do you guys ever get to have Buffalo Wild Wings at the track doing catering or that kind of stuff and kind of rubbing into the rest of the guys?
Typically, no. I mean, it's one of those deals. We do promotional stuff at the stores and stuff like that for the tracks that we're racing nearby. But yeah, definitely, that's the most popular question lots of times. You got any wings with you?
What's your favorite sauce right now?
Honey barbecue, Asian zing. Both those are, I guess my choice usually when I go or whatever. But obviously, there's enough to choose from, so you can try different ones and have fun with some of the hot ones if you really want to. But it definitely one of those deals where if you have the blazing sauce, you definitely want to make sure you got some water by you.
Are you a hot sauce kind of a guy, or do you prefer to leave it with the flavor side of it?
Yeah, I like the flavor side personally. I mean, when I was younger, the hot was all right, but I mean, I'll do the hot still. But at the same time, it's kind of like, the flavor side is more enjoyable. And nowadays, I guess you like to enjoy a meal, especially when you're having a good meal, I guess.
Now, do you have to avoid other wing places like the plague, or do you go out and do a little bit of competitive research for Buffalo Wild Wings?
We obviously running up and down the road. Lots of times, we eat at a Buffalo Wild Wings quite a bit, and lots of times with the truck parking, the 53-foot trailer, you don't get the options that you want to choose from all the time. So a lot of times, as long as we find a place to park, we choose whatever's there at that exit, whether it's a Wendy's, a Hooters, or whatever's available for the truck to park or whatever is usually what we go by. But for the most part, it's nice to eat at other chain restaurants as well, just for the fact that you can have too much of one thing sometimes.
Talk to us about how Dusty Zomer got involved in this whole addictive sport that is racing. How did it get into your blood?
I guess when I was younger, just playing softball with some friends, and my softball coach, his kids were into go-karts, and he talked my dad and mom into buying me a go-kart, and figured we'd go out and have some Friday night fun at a local track, and it just grew from there, I guess. We started doing locally stuff and started doing more regional stuff, and I liked it. I was winning, and I was doing good, and just got addicted to it, I guess. It was instead of camping and fishing during the weekend, we went racing. And it was kind of a family thing. My sister, my mom, dad, and myself, we just pack up and go racing during the weekend, and whether it was Iowa, Nebraska, or even further trips. But we just started from there, and obviously growing up as a kid, I went to Houston's a lot and watched sprint cars race around there, and took a liking to sprint cars. And when I had the opportunity, long-time friend of my dad's asked if I'd want to drive one, and I said, yeah, let's give it a try, and I think I was 17 at the time, and hopped in one, and obviously it was a little bit of change going from a go-kart that has no suspension to something like this with all the power and suspension. But I think we adapted fairly quickly. There are a lot of local tracks around the area, gave me chances to race 3 nights a weekend, close to Sioux Falls, and we went from the 360 stuff, and then slowly went up to the 410 stuff, and just kept getting our feet wet and traveling around. Started going to Knoxville a lot and wanted to get my name out there, and then we started doing well and running good, and had some really good runs at the Nationals, and that really kept my name alive, I guess, for the as the years went by. And I got a heck of an opportunity here with Todd and Susan LaHaye to drive their '82 Buffalo Wild Wings car, and definitely, you get an opportunity like this, you don't want to pass it up, especially being a big fan of racing and want to be part of racing. And this is, as far as a team out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, this is as good as it gets, and definitely happy that we are running well, and definitely looking forward to tonight's show.
At what point did you realize you were going to go pot committed and really make a run at this?
Well, the thing about sprint car racing is it seems like, as a younger person getting involved, lots of times you look at the average age of the guys that are racing, especially like the Outlaws and stuff like that, and then it's like 30, 35 years old, and so it kind of shows that car owners lots of times are looking for guys that have some experience and obviously aren't just going to go out and tear stuff up and be reckless and all that stuff. And so it kind of showed that, well, if you're going to have an opportunity to get into a car that has great backing and can race a lot, you're going to have to show that you're going to have to stick around for a while and really show that you're truly committed. And I feel that that's what we did, and I was in a couple different teams, and we ran well, and from when I went from one team to another, and I think that drew a little interest from a few people, and just one step at a time, and here we are, I guess. Like I said, super happy that we're in this car, and definitely want to take the opportunity of it and try to win some races.
Do you put a lot of pressure on yourself to be successful every single race, or are you able to kind of relax and say things are going to happen, I need to take advantage of them when they fall my way?
Well, I like, I'm a pretty relaxed person, I guess, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any tougher person than yourself. As a driver, you know where you make mistakes at, you know where you need to be better at, and so as especially with the Outlaws, you're racing against the best. When you make mistakes, you really, I shouldn't say you get down on yourself, and you just gotta, you kick yourself, and you're just like, God, that was stupid. I gotta learn from it. And you try to pick up on things as fast as possible, and you never quit learning. I mean, these Outlaw guys have been racing for years, 100 races a year, and there's still things that change throughout. Tires change, wings change, motors change, and there's just things that you just got to continue to keep going on, and you can't live off of the mistake you made the last race or something like that, or even the sport can be really humbling sometimes. You can win an Outlaw show, and the next night you can really struggle, and you end up in the tail of the field. It's just one of those deals where you just go from night to night, and you're doing your best. You're trying to leave everything out on the track, and when you come in, you just at the end of the day, you want to say, I knew I gave it my all, and if I made a mistake, I just need to fix it for next time and not continue to do that mistake.
What are your ambitions for the future? If an opportunity to go and race maybe a late model on a national touring series, or maybe even a NASCAR would come available, would that be something you'd be interested in, or are you pretty happy in your dirt series right now?
Well, obviously, everyone has dreams of doing this for a full-time living, and obviously making the big money, if that's what you want to call it. But as a kid, it was my dream to race on dirt, race a sprint car, and that's what I'm doing. So if this is all that it matters, then or this is all that it goes, then as far as I feel I've reached my potential. You just never know when something else comes about, and when it does, you obviously look at the situations each time they come about. But definitely, this is my dream as a kid, and I'm living it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm having fun, and I'm racing with the best people in the world, and you can't ask for nothing more than that.
Yeah, I got a kick out of, I think Tony Stewart said it a couple of weeks ago, said just because it's a lesser-known series, the World of Outlaws, than NASCAR, doesn't mean the drivers are less talented. Sometimes there's drivers on that series that could whoop most sprint car drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it definitely takes money to get to the top most of the time, and it's just one of those situations where I think there's a lot of Saturday night racers, if that's what you're gonna call them, out there that are very talented, that could make it to the highest level ranking of racing. But like I said, NASCAR was always where the money was at, and dirt was not really into the money part of it. But at the same time, as a true avid fan and as a racer, I definitely. Dirt is my passion, sprint cars, and obviously sometime I probably wouldn't mind trying that late model deal just to try it. I've watched a handful of them, and they look they look fun, challenging, and you never know down the road, I guess, what comes about. But at the same time, this is where I dreamed I'd want to be at, and doing what I love.
Can I give you a tip if you ever do try out a late model?
Go for it.
Don't mess with the tire compound.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard, but that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, seems like that's a hot topic this past week, so to say, I guess. But yeah, definitely, I don't know exactly the whole details of it, but it sounds like the whole tire dope deal. I got into it with go-karts, and actually, I'll be completely honest with you, I think the tire doping deal is what ruined that sport. It just got so costly, where your family individual, it was so tough for them to even compete, even at a local level, because it just slowly crept into the tracks around the country. And hopefully, people just they set a precedence. People don't mess with it, and it's just one of those situations. Obviously, everyone's watching for what everyone's doing, and you never know what they're going to find on certain things. But it's one of those subjects. Obviously, as technology evolves, people are paying attention, and you just try to stay away from that end of it as much as possible.
We're talking with Dusty Zomer, driver of the 82 Buffalo Wild Wings, a sprint car for the World of Outlaws out at Knoxville Raceway, and also at Blackbird's Bend, or South Bend, right? Or Badlands at Badlands Speedway. Talk to me about your style of track you like. We're talking to you at I-80 Speedway. It's a big, wide banked track. Do you prefer a small banked track, flat track? What's your preference?
I raced Knoxville for years. a big half mile or whatever, I always took a liking to. It's been fun to race, to get back to racing short tracks. I kind of, for a while there, I got away from them, and it took a little bit to get back in my rhythm on short tracks, but I feel still that the short tracks can be really challenging as far as a fan goes. A lot of the short tracks sometimes can be fun for, I guess more enjoyable to watch just because of the closeness of the racing. As far as a car owner goes, you like to see wide racetracks, whether it's a quarter mile or a half mile, just for the fact that things happen really closely. Like a place like Badlands, it's really tight, it's really narrow, and someone wrecks, sometimes it's tough to avoid, and you tear your own stuff up. But you get to a track like this that's really wide, it usually allows for some pretty good racing. The corners are really shaped in this track here, and so I think as we've seen before, last year the race came down to the end. I'm sure this year it'll be the same.
What about how's the racing? You kind of touched on a little bit the racing up at. My God, I forgot it again. I'm telling you, man, this heat is just killing me today. Talk to me about the racing up at Badlands. How's that going for the first year?
Yeah, definitely new ownership. They went in there and obviously changed a lot of things. The track is still basically the same. And it's just one of those deals where it's new sights for the fans, the drivers. It's like I said, the track is about the same. The racing's still the same. It's exciting for the fans. Exciting for the drivers. And when they get the track prep right up there, it can be a really good show. And obviously, raced there a handful of times already this year. I've pushed my limits and had some bad luck there and made some mistakes, but at the same time, we won a race there and we've ran well. So we've been fast every time we've been there. Just want to we go keep going back there for the big shows. We want to be good and like we are at a lot of other places, and just keep having fun and I guess see once where we end up.
Talk to us about some of the big specials you're going to be hitting up as the year continues on and begins to wind down. Probably going to hit the Knoxville Nationals. That's kind of a big deal. Any other big races that fans can kind of check out and come see Dusty Zomer?
Yeah, obviously, it's we put a tentative schedule together, and we have a lot of the big races on there that we go to. I mean, obviously, Mother Nature can detour wherever you want to go sometimes, and we can make a split decision to go somewhere else because we're not stuck to one series, and we enjoy that because we can race against different people, different racetracks. Don't always have to be a 410, can be a 360. So, but yeah, obviously we're getting to the end of June here. The Outlaws are in the area where we're out of, Sioux Falls, and we'll be chasing with them here for a bit. And obviously Badlands, they got their Outlaw show coming up, and we talked about going to the Kings Royal, and then obviously you got the Knoxville Nationals 360 and 410. So it's definitely the summer's heating up, and we got a lot of racing to do, and we chase the races all the way into September and October and even November. So you got to obviously get away from here because it starts cooling off. But the cooling off right now sounds all right because it's really hot in the sun. But we got a lot of racing to do. I mean, I'd say we're probably halfway through the year, not even maybe not even quite, but. So far it's been all right. We've had our ups, we have our downs, and like I said, the sport can be very humbling. You can go out and win in one night and dominate, and the next night you can really struggle. So it's just one of those deals. You make the best of every situation, you learn from it, and as a team you grow, and that's what we've been trying to do.
What about the Chili Bowl? Do you ever get the opportunity to ride in one of those cars during the off season?
I did once back in. Oh God, I want to say it's like 2009. It's a great race. It's a big race. I mean, obviously, it's a huge deal when you get that many cars racing at a deal. From a driver's standpoint of view, or even a car owner's standpoint of view, in my own opinion, I think it's a race that needs to pay way more than what it does. And as a fan, it's great racing, and as a driver, it's great racing. But it definitely, as much money or people that are racing that deal, they definitely need to raise the purse on that situation, in my own opinion. But I guess if they got the event and the promoters making or the owners are making big money on the show, I guess they don't have to raise the purse as to how they look at it. But it's one of those deals. I had fun when I did it. It's definitely different when you get in a midget, compared to a wing car. It's about the perfect size track, and you never know if we ever try it again.
And again, that was Dusty Zomer in the number 82 Buffalo Wild Wings car. You can catch Dusty this weekend. He's going to be probably tomorrow over at Oski for the Front Row Challenge that is put on by Terry McCarl. And then you'll also see him at Knoxville Raceway. What are they getting there Thursday? And then they race, they get there probably on Wednesday, and then they race on Thursday, Friday for Saturday night for the main event for the Knoxville Nationals. Man, the title of this, by the way, 56th Annual 5-Hour Energy Knoxville Nationals presented by Casey's General Store.
Yeah.
They've done a great job. Getting Kendra Jacobs, who is a part of MRN, to come on as their marketing director has really opened up a lot of sponsorship opportunities for that track.
When you're out going to go fill your tank with gas or something, and believe me, this isn't a sponsor of ours, but Casey's does a great job all across the Midwest to sponsor and racing.
Yep.
Give them some business if you're driving down the street.
And quite frankly, I've found that they are generally the cheapest gas in town. I think when I filled up on Monday when we got back or Sunday night when we got back from Iowa Speedway, I filled up at $1.95 a gallon, and everybody else was $1.99.
Yeah, I mean, I just went by one on the way here, and I got to buy gas probably tomorrow, but it's $1.97 right by where I'm at.
Yep.
And,
in Omaha.
Yeah, exactly.
And living in Council Bluffs, it's a couple of cents cheaper, but yeah.
Right on Q Street.
Casey's is a fantastic sponsor of a lot of dirt racers around the area. I think they sponsor Brian Brown, right? In the 360s and the 410s.
ASCS, I think, is Brian Brown, I think. But, I mean, I've seen him sponsoring something at just about every racetrack.
I think they sponsor McKenna Hussey, too.
Could be.
But they do a great job of sponsoring, and it's all locally owned. It's an Iowa-based company that's expanded massively throughout the Midwest and nationwide. So, but again, the 56th Annual Knoxville Nationals going on this coming Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Knoxville. If you've never been there, I was really, really impressed when I went there for the first time last year. And man, you're driving through this little town of Knoxville, Iowa, and you're driving on the main street, and all of a sudden, there is a Coliseum right next to you. And it is a mecca for sprint car racing. And it really is a lot like a NASCAR track talks about, where it's an experience, because you don't just go for the racing that night like you do for I-80. For the Silver Dollar Nationals, you show up an hour and a half early and you go through the merch tents. But Knoxville, you show up 2 days early and you go through the merch booths, you go through the Sprint Car Museum, you go over to Slideways Karting Center and do a little bit of racing for outdoor karting, and you go over, and there's the charity event that has Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Kyle Larson, and Casey Kane that go over there and do that. That'll be coming up this week. There's a lot of great things that go on at Knoxville for the Knoxville Nationals.
Yeah, I've never been to the Nationals, so I'm really looking forward to next weekend when we go.
Yeah.
I've been by the Speedway, so I know right where it is. There's if you keep going pretty much straight east on that highway, and it's a little bit off the highway, but there's a little 8th Mile drag strip over there called Eddyville.
Okay.
Tommy Johnson Jr., we interviewed him a while back.
Yep.
That's where he first started racing, was in Eddyville, because it's right by Tumwa where he's from. And I've seen his dad race over there and stuff. So, yeah, we drove by it all the time, but I'm not, and we've talked about before, I'm not a huge sprint car guy. Mm-hmm. But like you said, this is an event.
Yeah.
We
got to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 3. We'll talk with another guy who's going to be racing at this event. Plus, he's putting on the big race tomorrow at Oski. We'll talk with Terry McCarl, T-Mac, driving the number 24, coming up here in just a few minutes here on the Front Stretch.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, handing it to turn number 3, and it's time to talk with T-Mac Terry McCarl about his time in a race car. And I started off by asking him, because with track prep, it's always kind of beneficial to have a support class, not just for the fans to be able to have more racing to see, but also that it's beneficial for the track and the track prep crew, because certain classes will tear up the track in a certain way that is beneficial for the way the sprint cars like to have the track when they roll out for the feature. So that's what I started off by asking him. Is there a preferred class that you like to have support a sprint car feature and that gives you a track you're going to like?
Well, the bigger tire is probably better for us. We don't really want them to tear up the track too much, but sometimes you do. It just depends on how well they did the track coming into it. So that's one thing I got to give the Kosiski some credit these last couple of years. I've been saying for a long time this has turned into one of my favorite racetracks, and I really hadn't been winning. But it's just such a fun racetrack. You can get up on the top, you ride around the bottom, slide jobs, very seldom lays rubber, and then we won the big dirt classic here this spring. So, Ed has been doing an amazing job of figuring out what to do and all his guys and what to do with the stock cars, sprint cars. They have so many different classes that run here. But, on the little short tracks, I just don't care for the front wheel drives. They tear the stuff. I don't mind watching them, but I don't like them for track prep. They kind of tear the track up a little bit too much for us. But, again, it depends on the track and how hard they have it.
So you kind of prefer a wider tire, though?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But, again, it's like these guys are really, for being kind of what I call maybe stock car track guys who obviously legends in the stock car business have really figured out how to do the sprint car deal, too.
Racing with the World of Outlaws and the NSL, how many races do you plan on hitting with the World of Outlaws?
We ran the whole spring with them and then run the fall with them, ending up at the World Finals in Charlotte. So we hit as many as we possibly can. They're the best in the business, and they keep you sharp, and you might be winning all the local shows, and you go there and get your butt whooped. So, again, it's like, AAA baseball player playing against Major League players as much as he possibly can. So we try to do that as much as we can afford, much as we can, and we wish we could run the whole full time with them. If we had the sponsorship, we'd run the whole full tour because they're the best in the business. But, again, we've been real competitive with them lately. Won Knoxville a few weeks ago, and, we really got a good handle on these new Maxims. I think we got a good shot at it, and, again, we ran real well here at I-80 at the Spring Classic and won that, so we're hoping for big things tonight.
When you come to a track that you've raced before as a part of the World of Outlaws, like you said, you were here for the Dirt Classic with the NSL and you won that. You've been here before in a 410. Do you feel like you have a little bit of an upper hand against these guys, or is it because they race with each other so much that you're just a little closer to them?
Well, it used to be back in the day the local guys kind of did have an advantage, and I think there's a couple tracks like Williams Grove and a few little out in California, the real short little sticky bull rings where the local guys I think have not necessarily advantage, but I think they got a definite even playing field with these guys. But the way, I've been on the Outlaw Tour before, they travel so much and they hit a different type of track every night that they're ready for anything. Short track, big track, slick, heavy, rough. So, and again, they are the best teams and the best drivers in the world, so they can adapt a lot quicker. Sometimes, a local guy gets used to his normal local setup, and then when they roll in, it's not the same track that they've been having, so they kind of screws the locals up a little bit. But a place like here where we really don't race, here that often, like I say, Knoxville or Badlands, there's no advantage. Definitely, they're pretty awesome.
Talk about being a father of a race car driver. For two, right? That's right. You've got two of them in there now, and I think one of them was racing a 305, right?
No, Carson was here with the 360s at the Nebraska 360 that got rained out, and Austin's running 410s. He wasn't able to make it tonight, but he'll be at Jackson on Friday night.
Talk about watching your son's race. Is it more nerve-wracking you behind the wheel or you up on the hauler watching him?
Well, I always tell people it's kind of the difference for me between driving a motorcycle and riding on the back of a motorcycle. I don't mind driving one, but I don't want to ride on the back with anyone. So, when you're not in control and it's your babies, no matter how old they are, they're your babies, and I love them a lot, and they're great kids. And, yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking. I don't know how my wife Lori does it. She's pretty amazing. And I really, early on I raced with Austin a lot, or he wasn't around me racing, so I wasn't that nervous. And I got injured, and I got to watch him race a lot. And I was a nervous wreck. I was freaking out. And my wife's like, you need to calm down. She's like, I just realized you really haven't watched the boys race that often. I'm usually off doing my own thing. So, yeah, she's a pretty amazing. All the women out there listening, you guys, the wives and mothers especially, you're all pretty amazing people to put up with this stuff.
And nerves of steel too, right, for the women?
Oh, yeah, they are. And I'm not. I'm not for sure, but I'm a nervous wreck when they race.
Has there been a time where you've had the conversation with your wife that she's kind of said, okay, maybe, Terry, it's time to hang up the wheel because I'm kind of tired of my nerves being frayed?
Well, there's been more than a couple times in my life and my career that I wanted to quit and thought about quitting, and she wouldn't let me. So, when we were younger, we were broke and we're making any money. And then when I got injured, when I broke my leg really bad, she told me, she's like, you're not going to quit this way. So you got to go another year. And if you feel like quitting a year from now, then fine. But she's not going to let me quit and then regret it the rest of my life. But as far as dealing with the boys and all that stuff, she's never really wanted, I'm still doing pretty well. So I don't want to quit yet. I'd like to. I wish I could put everything I know and put it in their brain and move on and just sell their T-shirts. But right now we can't do that.
I always get a kick out of talking to the second-generation drivers because there's a division between, okay, I'm now comfortable in the car and I got to start being my own driver. Talking to the first-generation driver where you're trying to relay your information onto them, are they trying to break away from you and do their own thing yet, or are you still, hey, I know more than you?
Well, I kicked him out of the nest a couple years ago. I told him I can't really afford to run my own team, let alone 3 teams. So you guys are out. You got to, you can work out of my shop, things like that, and I'll help you a little bit that I can. But you got to make this work. So Carson, he hasn't raced but once or twice the last 2 years, and now he's got to ride with Jeremy Skadden in the 360. So that's pretty awesome. But Austin's been able to make his deal work with Simplot and Bargain Barn. But financially is the tough part, and making it so they can travel around a race. And that's why Austin isn't here tonight. But Austin's a very, very, very good mechanic. He was my mechanic when I won the Huset's and Knoxville Championship in 2012, and he was only about 17 or 18 years old, and he's not only a good driver, he's a great mechanic, and Carson's coming along in the mechanic end of it. And I tell him you got to be able to work on these things yourself. You're not always going to be able to find a good mechanic or afford to hire a good mechanic, so you need to be able to look after your car yourself, and they're both doing really well on that, and that's going to be a key to the success, I think, in the future. So it's something, they need to race as much as they possibly can, but it's an expensive sport.
Talk about your career, and I hate to keep acting like it's winding down in a couple of years, but, there's going to be a day, maybe hopefully 10, 15, 20 years that you're going to have to hang it up. What's 1 or 2 more races that you definitely have got to win before you can call your career successful?
Well, I think I've had a great career, and I've won probably in more states and more races than most guys out there, but I just haven't really picked off the big ones like the Knoxville Nationals, and we led it for a long time and kind of gave it away in 04, and Kings Royal, I felt we had a shot at winning that a couple times and ran real well, but won the night before the Kings Royal. Those are the 2 I care about, the Knoxville Nationals, Kings Royal. The rest of them, they're all big races. There's a lot of. I'm into the history. Obviously Williams Grove National Open, stuff like that is important. But I probably won't make it back out there for that ever again. And I'm not even sure about the Kings Royal, but definitely Knoxville National is always number 1 on anyone's list. But the Kings Royal is right up there with me too.
All right, so that was Terry McCarl, T-Mac Terry McCarl. By the way, I found the information. It is called the Front Row Challenge at Oski or Southern Iowa Speedway. $20,000 to win. It goes on tomorrow. Tickets are available by calling 515-957-0020. But I'm betting because it's Sunday and the race is tomorrow, just pick them up at the door. They'll be the easiest thing. And it's all the big drivers go over there and race. It is a big event for $20,000 to win.
Now, is that a 410 show or is that a 360 show?
That's a 410 show.
Okay.
Yep, 410 sprint class.
And is it wing sprints? Because Oski used to be famous for non-wing sprints.
Now, basically, this is just kind of a warm-up to the Silver Dollar Nationals, to the Knoxville Nationals.
Okay.
And it's something that Terry McCarl has organized, and he puts on. It's just kind of a fun little thing. They go over and do it. It's full-winged 410s, and a lot of the drivers that are going to be at Knoxville this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday will be at Oski on Monday for the Front Row Challenge, so make sure to check that out.
So that should be a good field of cars.
Absolutely. We got to take a break. We'll be back in turn number 4. We will wrap the show up by previewing Watkins Glen. This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Hey, race fans. The Race Saver IMCA Sprint Car Nationals return to America's home track, Eagle Raceway, September 2nd through the 4th. Come watch over 125 sprint cars from all over the great United States and Canada. Qualifying features Friday and Saturday nights, as well as the Jake Ida Memorial Race of Champions. Sunday's action will include last chance qualifiers, and the fastest 27 cars will start 3 abreast in the 50-lap feature to crown our champion. Save some cash. Pick up a 3-day pass for only $30. Green flag times and more details are at eagleraceway.com.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch. Dirk and I just about ready to wrap this baby up. Before we wrap it up, make sure you head over to Quaker Steak and Lube today, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch, and watch the action for today's race. Watkins Glen, make note that it is on the USA Network today, and today only due to the fact that the Olympics are going on, so NBC's got prior obligations that they signed years and years ago. So this race is over on USA Network, but as always, you can check out the action on MRN. Looks like coverage kicks off at about 1 o'clock today with green flag at 1:30. And don't forget to vote for the Betty Jane France Humanitarian Award. I bring it up because Team Jack is one of the finalists for the Betty Jane France Humanitarian Award, and Team Jack is the foundation that they got involved with
University of Nebraska football.
Right, and it was a really cool event, and so they're up for the Betty Jane and France Humanitarian Award. You can vote by going to NASCAR.com. You know what? Just Google Betty Jane France Humanitarian Award, and it will come up with the information. You can vote there. And it's a cool little event. You can vote up until, I believe, September 26th is when that ends. And it looks like there's $100,000 up for grabs for the charity that ends up winning it. Really cool event that the Betty Jane France Humanitarian Award does. All right, let's talk Watkins Glen. Couple of notes. There was a Goodyear tire test that was conducted at Watkins Glen a few weeks ago because of the repave. They wanted to find out what the tires were going to do. The following cars, well, I'll just tell you the big names. Jamie McMurray, Brad Keselowski, Austin Dillon, AJ Allmendinger, Ryan Blaney, Clint Boyer, Chris Buescher, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, and Martin Truex Jr. were involved. There were some other teams that were involved. We'll post it on Facebook. So when you're talking about a wild card race, those teams have already gotten experience at that track, a little extra practice. So those might be teams you want to consider.
Well, it also depends on if Goodyear does bring that exact tire. If they change the tire up, then it means nothing.
Yep.
But Brad Keselowski's lucky he's still around after
oh my God, that
practice.
wreck was scary.
That was pretty horrendous. That's almost horrendous as Jimmy Johnson had one up there back when he was in the Busch Series in 01 or 02, something like that, before he moved up. And he basically had the same thing, head first, nose first into the tires and the guardrail at the end of the front straightaway, and that's one of the fastest parts on the track. So
they figured he was going, because they didn't have exact telemetry because it was just a test, they figured he was going around $150 when he hit that wall.
Yeah. Well,
and that's, man, I don't care what safety equipment you have. You hit a wall near dead on at 150, it's going to hurt.
Oh, yeah. And, I spent just a couple minutes talking to Brad, and that came up when we talked at Iowa Speedway there. And, I told him, I said, hey, I'm glad you survived that and everything's okay. He rolled his eyes, and he said, man, I'm glad too. He goes, that was a hard hit.
All right, we got a busy couple of weeks to come. Watkins Glen today. Make sure your picks are in by the time the green flag waves at about 1:30. By the way, if there is rain in the area, we're racing because Goodyear is going to bring their rain tires. And I almost guarantee you that after that race, if it does rain and we go under and race in the rain, we won't race in the rain ever again because it's bad racing. Nobody can pass. Nobody can see. It's bad racing.
And see, I don't mind the racing. I don't like it, but I don't mind the racing because it's different.
Yeah, that could be true.
I will definitely watch it.
We'll be live at Knoxville Raceway next weekend as we will recap the Knoxville Nationals, the 56th annual running of the Knoxville Nationals. We'll have race audio and we'll have interviews from the top 5. Then we're going to be live the following weekend to recap Bristol, and then live as we get ready for Kansas Speedway coming up in October. By the way, tickets are going to be on sale right now, kansasspeedway.com. Thank you so much for joining us. For Dirk Houston, I am Dan Taylor. We'll do it all again live next weekend from the World Center of Sprint Car Racing, Knoxville Raceway. Thanks a lot for joining us. This has been The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.